This next section is to share with you the precision standard on the Chapter 8 formative. So, first part says simplify each algebraic expression by combining like terms. Remember, like terms are numbers with the same variable raised to the same power. Remember, those are things that have all the same stuff in them. They might have a different coefficient, but everything else would be the same. So when we have two quantities added together, we have to look at like quantities. For example, 5 7/10 x plus 3 2/10. That quantity, you can't add those two things in the quantity together. So 5 7/10 x and 3 2/10 can't be added together because they're unlike terms. 5 7/10 x has a specific value based on the variable, but we don't know what that is. So we can't add those together. But we can add 5 7/10 x plus 2 1/10 x, and we can add 3 2/10 and 9 together. So both of those things you can add together, and this is basically just decimal addition. So 5 7/10 plus 2 1/10, 7/10 plus 1/10 is 8/10, so it's going to be 8/10 x, but then we still have our wholes, so we have 5 plus 2, which is 7. So 7 8/10 x plus, and then 2/10 plus 0/10 is 2/10. 3 plus 9 is 12, so we have 12 2/10. And then we can't simplify it any further because we don't have like terms. So that's my solution. All right, the next one, we have 8y squared plus 14 plus 6y minus 9. So starting with 8y squared, look and see if there's anything that we can combine. 6y also has a y, but it's not raised to the same power. It's not y squared, and the reason why they're different, the dimensions are different. So, a y is one-dimensional, y squared is two-dimensional. Another way to look at it is if you put a value in for each one. So y would be equal to 3, y squared would equal 9, two different things. So you can't combine those two. So we just have to leave 8y squared the way it is. We have to leave 6y the way it is. So I'm going to say 8y squared plus 6y. And then the two things that I can combine are 14 and 9. But what you have to really pay close attention to is the operation in front of the 9. It's subtraction. So 14 minus 9 is 5. So that's going to be my simplified expression. That's a 5. So I'll rewrite that. 8y squared plus 6y plus 5. Okay? And that would be my solution. Then the last one, and probably the most complicated one. But again, I look at what I first can combine. I can combine 11w with 4w. And the addition symbol before tells me that I need to add. So I have 15w, and then I have 12y, and then I have plus y squared. So plus y squared, I can't combine those because they're raised to a different power. Y squared is a different thing than y. So 12y minus 7y. So again, I have to look at that operation. That's a subtraction. So 12y take away 7y would be 5y. So plus 5y. And then I have my 2y squared that's left. So plus 2y squared. I ran out of room there, so I'm just going to rewrite this down below. So I had 15w plus 5y plus 2y squared. And there's my solution for the third one. Alright, so remember, combining like terms, you need to have the same variable raised to the same power. Okay, you can't combine unlike terms. Alright, the next section says to write an equivalent numerical expression for each using the commutative and the associative properties, then evaluate each expression. So, the first expression, we have 7 plus 8 plus 23 plus 12. And you can see my expressions that I wrote. C represents the commutative property. I wrote 7 plus 23 plus 8 plus 12. And what I did with there was I was changing the order of those terms. So that when you change the order of the terms, it doesn't affect the sum. And that's the commutative property. So I changed the order to make it easier for me to add. So 7 plus 23, that's pretty easy to add, is 30. And then plus 8 is 38. Plus 12, I can add those two things together, and that equals 50. Okay, so there's 50. And then the associative property states that I can change the grouping of the terms in an expression, and it does not affect the sum either. So I group these numbers so they're easy to add. 8 plus 12, I know that's 20. Plus 23 plus 7, I know that equals 30. 20 plus 30 equals 50. And there's my solution. The next one, you can see I changed the order in the commutative property to make it, using the commutative property to make the expression 4 times 5 times 9. And again, this won't affect the outcome. In this case, it's the product based on the commutative property. It just gives me an easier way to multiply. So I have 20 times 9, and then that equals 180. Right. Associative property, I changed the grouping. So I have the same order, but I changed the grouping. Now I have 4 times the quantity 9 times 5. 9 times 5 I know is 45. And then I can multiply 45 times 4, which is pretty easy for me to multiply. 45 times 2 is 90, so I know 45 times 4 will be double that, and that, again, is 180. Again, you can see my examples for the commutative and associative property here. Again, you don't have to have the exact same as mine. I just try to order mine and group them in ways that make sense for me. So the commutative property, I ordered it so that I could do 2 times 5, which I know is 10, times 8 times 7. So 10 times 8 I know is 80, times 7, I know that equals 560 because 8 times 7 is 56, add a 0 is 560. The associative property, I went a similar direction, and I grouped 2 times 5 together, then I grouped 8 times 7 together. So let's see how that works. So 2 times 5 is 10, and then, so that's still in parentheses, and then 8 times 7 is 56, still in parentheses, so we need to multiply those two. 10 times 56, I know is 560. Alright, the last one, another addition, so the changing in order doesn't affect the sum based on the commutative property. So I ordered my numbers so that I could make 10 right away. So I'd have 10 plus 6 plus 3 plus 1. 10 plus 6 then I know is 16 plus 3 plus 1. And 16 plus 3 is 19 plus 1. And then that equals 20. So my solution there would be 20. So again, I ordered it so that it was easy for me to add. Likewise, for the associative property, I grouped the numbers so they're easy for me to add. 8 plus 2, I know that equals 10, so I wanted to group them together. And then 6 plus 3 plus 1, and I know that also equals 10, so I grouped those together. 10 plus 10 equals 20. So there you go. Associative property, grouping the numbers together. Commutative property, changing the order of the numbers, and neither one of them affects the outcome, either the sum or the product, depending on the situation. All right, and that's your Chapter 2, or Chapter 8, Standard 2 answer key.